Hi all, Jen Sanders here. So I am creating today's video all about how I get unstuck with my abstract paintings using my iPad and Procreate. It's a really simple process and I really just want to run you through it really quick. So hopefully in the future, if you ever get stuck on one of your pieces of art, you can use this as a trick in your toolbox to get unstuck. I have this iPad, I believe it's the Pro 12 and the Apple Pencil, and I already have Procreate downloaded onto my iPad, and I'm going to walk you through every single step along the way, but let's go ahead and get started. Before I get started, I wanted to show you the piece that I have already begun to work on that I'm sort of stuck on. I had created this piece just a couple of days ago. It's completely dry. I'm not really sure where to go from here. So I have kind of a color palette in mind. I know what my style is and what direction I really want to go, but I kind of want to test out some colors using the Procreate and test out some shapes and gestures and maybe some other additional marks and all kinds of things. So just to show you real quick, this is the painting itself before we get started. This is the orientation that I plan to use, or at least this was the plan when I started the painting. So you're seeing it kind of the way that I would expect it to be hung. But once we get it into the Procreate program, it might be a little bit different. I might decide to kind of flip it around and see if I like it in different orientations with the different marks on it. What I'm doing right now is taking images with my iPad. I will take those images as close to being squared off as possible. Then in the next clip, I will actually show you how I crop it and edit some of the colors. Right now, we're just trying to get a straight on image that I can easily crop so that I can put it into Procreate. The first thing that I start with is the image itself. So I'll go into edit and I will crop this as close as I can, and you can see how crooked I made this picture. And it's okay if you have taken a little bit of the edges off. This isn't, you're not going to do anything with this. No one's ever really going to see it. So here I'm using kind of the rotate tool. There we go. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But I think that's pretty good. I also like to go in and update some of the coloring. So for some reason, I just feel like all Apple products just need a lot more exposure. And then I usually update up the contrast just a little bit and up the saturation just a tiny bit, just one or two little points there. And that seems closer to what I originally had, just so I know if the colors work for me or not. This is the finished cropped image that we're going to open up into Procreate. And from here, I'm just gonna send it to Procreate. What this does is this will open it in Procreate, but with the correct artboard size. So once you open Procreate, you'll see that it's there. Normally it opens for me. And then from there, we can get started on actually making some edits to this piece. Now that I have this piece pulled up, you see that I have that inspiration color palette, which is actually what I typed in here, but then it changed it. But so I can actually start to pull in some of the colors. I can also go back to the disc, and that color palette is here too. So what I could do, and what I will most likely do, is adjust some of these colors. So I just had this color selected. I made it a little darker. I kind of want like a nice deep grayish tone. I think that's where I'm gonna start, and then I use that to darken it and then create another version of the color. I have kind of the base sample colors that I can work from, but then I'll also add a bunch of colors and see how that works. So as far as brushes go, Procreate has some really great brushes that are already built in. I would suggest anything in painting, anything in artistic. Sketching is great. I love the 6B pencil. I'm trying to remember here what I use. Even drawing. There are a lot of different ones that come built in. I've also purchased a ton of different brushes that I use a lot, especially like watercolor. So because I use a lot of watery paint, watercolor brushes make a lot of sense for me, right? So you can kind of see how I can sort of manipulate this to look similar to something that I would normally paint on my own. So before we get started, we have layer 1, which is the image. I am basically going to create a layer for every single color that I add to this. And the reason that I do that is as I actually paint this painting, I will reference this and I'll delete all the layers that are on top of each layer. So I'll show you a little bit more on that later. So now I feel like I've gotten to a stopping point, and I kind of want to show you why we created layers for each and every color. The reason that I do this is because I can go back in and turn each and every layer off. And then I am here with my original painting, And as I add those layers back in, I know where I want to make what colors and what marks as I actually start painting. So that way, because I work in layers in my artwork, in my real life painting, it benefits me to be able to see what layers to do next. And also it helps me sort of see the colors a lot better. So we'll just kind of like paint each section, add those colors and add those pieces in as we go. And then by the time we get to the end, we will have all of the layers added and we will have what feels like a complete painting. So at this point, this is basically what I have to go off of. If for some reason any of this changes or I change my mind, I just kind of work with this as I go. I might delete a layer or decide that maybe I don't like this sort of maroon red color after all. Overall, I like the feeling of this painting. I like the way that this looks. I might update some of these like deeper or brighter pinks. I don't know that that's the direction I'm necessarily going to go, but at least this is a kind of a starting point of a color palette that I may want to gravitate toward. I could also group each and every one of these layers together and make it kind of one thing that I can turn on and off. Let me remember how to use Procreate. And then I can group those. So here's my group. I could turn all those off, kind of hide that group, and then start with new layers and completely test out an entirely different color palette. So make an additional row of completely different colors and try something completely different. I'm not going to go through that in this video, but it would be a good idea to keep your options open, right? I think we covered all the bases on how to use Procreate to kind of get unstuck. I have this painting behind me, and again, I might actually create a few versions and work off of that and then create my work, but the process is always the same. So we take an image, we load it into Procreate, paint on top of it, make sure we have lots of layers, and create something that you really like, and then try to replicate that and paint it in real life. So hopefully this was a helpful video. Hopefully it helps you get unstuck if you have access to Procreate. If not, there are lots and lots of other painting type softwares that are out there. This just happens to be what I use, but I'm sure you can kind of reuse this sort of concept in multiple other ways. If you found this video helpful, definitely hit the like button. I also would appreciate it if you subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Leave comments in the comment section if you have suggestions of videos that you want to see in the future, or if you have any questions over what we covered today. Again, my name is Jen Sanders. I am an abstract artist, and I hope that this video really helped you.